What's going on, guys? It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. It is Saturday morning, 11 a.m. This video is coming out a little bit later than when I normally drop it, but we drop one of these videos once per week. There's a lot of things to unpack and a lot of things to uncover. I'm just going to start up and let you guys know I am recording again on my laptop. I know there was audio issues last week. I'm hoping I addressed it. I went into the filter. I had a noise gate that I put on last time, and I think I made it too strict. So I made some tweaks, I made some changes. I'm hoping the audio comes in clear. I'm not cutting in and out. I've read a lot of your comments all throughout the week, as well as in my last week's video. So I'm going to try and keep all of that in mind. I understand that some people, when they're listening to my video, they don't necessarily have a visual, so they want me to kind of describe, do a little bit better describing. So I'll try and do that today in today's video. You guys, if you want to give me feedback at the end of the video, that'd be great. Once again, as always, if you're making a big financial decision, please do your own due diligence, do your own research. I'm just a guy who loves the stock, who loves charting the stock and sharing my opinion as to where I see it going. Now, as it may not be news to many of you who've been watching me on Twitter, I have actually made some posts that have actually challenged the overall positive sentiment. And I want to address a couple of things. Number one, no, I'm not short the stock. No, I'm not bearish on NIO. I am bullish long term. But I want to also challenge people, because when you start thinking that the stock market is a guarantee, that's when the stock market tends to humble you. And if you did a search for NIO on Twitter and you did the $ NIO and looked at how many people who are like, yep, this thing is a guaranteed lock going to 8 and 9 or 10 and 12, or it's squeezing way higher, and talking as a matter of fact, I thought that was a dangerous thing. And this comes right at a pivotal moment when the JP and Morgan dropped a new $8 price target. And I got flashbacks because I've been watching NIO for over the past year. And I remember very, very clearly last year around September, and I'm going to roll down around there, JP and Morgan set an $8 price target just weeks before it topped, and then cratered over the span of the next 5 to 6 months, over 60%. I'm not going to say that's the same thing, but it definitely raises some red flags. Now, I have seen some things that have gotten me a little bit concerned from a technical analysis that says, hang on one second, let's not jump ahead and get ahead of ourselves and get overconfident. Now, I've been reading some of the bull cases. I pay more close attention to some of the TA that's out there, and there's some good stuff out there, some good perspectives, and I'm going to cover that. So in today's video, I am going to actually put together 2 different scenarios here, and I'll tell you what my bias is and what my lean is, and I'll try and be as objective as I possibly can using the velocity divergences and pullbacks indicator right down here. So that's my main indicator where it measures the move. Now, I got to remember, some of you guys you don't have visuals, so I'll do my best trying to explain it. But if we were to go back in time, I guess what would make most sense, by the way, is to talk about where we stopped, and we're going to review where I saw things last week. And I was measuring from the bottom of the rally on May 28th, which was $3.36, to the top of this most recent rally, which not the top, but I guess the top of the bull flag, because we pushed higher, which happened towards the end of July, on July 23rd, around $5. And what did it hit? It hit $5.25. And you got to bear with me. I actually don't have my mouse. I'm using a touchpad here, so I'm doing the best I can with the tools that I got. And it dropped to 440, and it measured right around a low of $4.39. And when you run that through a Fibonacci trend analysis, it should measure the next move of that bull flag. Now, we did get it did tag the 127.2%, like I had anticipated. I felt like even last week, I think we were trading around 640, 650. I forget the exact amount, but I'm like, it's got so much momentum. And it's now come, and it's almost kind of slowed down a bit. It's taken a little bit of a breather. It hit 683, and momentarily it broke below the previous fib line, which is 631. And so you got two camps right now when you search across NIO, and the overwhelming camp, which I say would be the 90%, is this is a sure shot. It's going to shoot way higher, and we're going to get to $8, $9, and $10. And I would love to see that. But there is, once you start talking in guarantees and you start chasing right around resistance, which is something that normally, if you set that as a habit, you're probably setting yourself up for a lot of pain. Buying right at resistance, and to say it's a guarantee, if it doesn't actually happen, you're going to have a very, very tough, if you're jumping in now on NIO and chasing, expecting $8 is a lot because JP Morgan dropped that price target and most people are bullish, then I think you might potentially be setting yourself up for some pain. Because if it doesn't actually play out the way everyone thinks it is, because in the stock market, nothing's a guarantee. And that's all I'm trying to say. So I will lay out two different scenarios. I'll lay out the bull case, but I'll also lay out the bearish case. And on top of that, the third thing I'm going to do, I'm going to measure the velocity. When we know that reversal comes in on the velocity, and we've talked about this in previous videos, but there's probably a lot of new people here. But when I look at the velocity and divergences indicator, when I'm looking at that, I look to draw two trend lines. And when I'm drawing out two trend lines and I'm seeing if it breaks twice, that's a sign that there's a reversal taking place. So as you guys can or cannot see right now, I'm looking at, let's take a quick peek at our velocity divergences and pullback indicator. We can see the velocity. It actually just recently broke the previous high from a year ago on the daily, which is fantastic. It made a higher high from the relative high from July 23rd. So it's making higher highs and it's making higher lows. Now, as you can clearly see on the 24-hour time frame, we haven't quite yet seen another higher low. What does a higher low look like? Well, if you can't see the screen and you're just looking, imagine that bull flag that we got from that 15-day bull flag that we got. That's what a higher low looks like. We're still in the very early beginning stages, if that is the play, because it's still an option. If that plays out and another bull flag forms and some more longer consolidation forms, when I would look at the velocity divergence of the pullback, I would like to see a very obvious kind of curl down. So I'm going to draw that velocity curling down for you guys so you can see here, and I'm actually using dots, and curling up. And if I can see that, to me, that's okay. That's a dip. That's also a higher low. There's continuation. Okay, then we can possibly see that as playing out. Right now, I think it's still a little bit early on, and I'm seeing some cracks that has me going, so let's slow down just a second. So what do I see? I'm going to dive in now. Actually, before I do that, I want to actually share something with you guys, and this is part of the bull thesis. So I'm not going to outright and say the people that are bullish and expecting higher are wrong, because they could be right. Now let's just put ourselves in that situation, and let's say best case scenario, we get continuation. What needs to hold? So, and I'm using my my touchpad, so it's a little bit finicky. I don't have my mouse, and I didn't even bring my headset or nothing here, so I'm just talking from the built-in microphone on my laptop. So I apologize once again. I'll try and get to my main setup, but things have gotten really, really busy actually. So I'm going to draw out a parallel channel here, and this is going to support our bull thesis, and I'm sure our bulls will be happy to hear this. Okay, I'm sure you guys will be very happy. So here we go. We've got a 1 year bull channel. And for those that can't watch or can't see, I drew out a channel from, and I can't see it, I'm going to tell you the date, from last year in April of 2024 from $3.62. I connected it to the low from August of 2024, just before the last 100% rally, to the high, and it gave us a nice parallel channel. Let's just make sure the scaling is right. Am I in the audit? Yes, I am in the regular scaling. So here's the bullish case. Now you can see this channel. If you look at the actual current price where we're sitting at right now at $6.40, you can see it broke out of the parallel channel, but that resistance would have been at $6.07. Okay, so if this is how we're actually going to be doing our TA, And the way parallel channels work, and I'm a firm believer in them, you were to stack it up. And so now I'm taking that parallel channel, I'm doubling it up. We can now measure the move that the bulls are expecting and the bulls what they want to get. This is going to make a lot more sense if you're taking a look. So if you can take a look at what I just drew here, it's tough to describe, but I took the parallel channel, I stacked it on top. And bulls, the bull thesis here is that we're going to go and we're going to test the top of that, the top of the stacked parallel channel, which would take you to $8.50. So long as $6.07 holds, approximately. So long as that level holds. And what I would expect from the price action, I can take the top of the price around $6.85 from a couple days ago. I can draw out a trend line. And I can imagine another flag potentially playing out. This is the bull case, you guys. And where is it? Where's my arrow? And I would imagine, like, think of like another, I don't know, 10 days, 15 days of looking for clarity, looking for direction. I know earnings is coming very, very close. Is it next week earnings? I have my earnings turned off, so don't know when the earnings exactly is going to be. But I imagine that would actually play a role in adding some volatility. And it's not a guarantee that you'll get that break above. We saw it with BABA on the last run, and we will jump into BABA actually before. Just because you have that breakout, it could fail. So it's important to watch what happens over the next few days. It's not a guarantee, and we could look at the velocity for hints. But this is your bullish pathway. Comes down, we hold 607, 609, and it makes a lower high. We draw a trend line, it breaks out. You got another bull flag breakout, you get a little tiny pullback, and then you get like that continuation move, and it goes and gives you that last boom hurrah. You're getting into 840, you're getting up to 850. And at some point in time, you're going to see that sizable pullback. And no, I will tell you, the drop from $5.25 back in July down to the low of $4.30, that was not a sizable pullback. And if you're new to NIO, and I know a lot of you guys are, NIO tends to be very volatile on these runs, especially when it does decide to give you a pullback. And when it does, the cool-off periods statistically they take at minimum 3 months. So I'm going to quickly jump here because I think there's a lot of new people who have not heard me talk about this. I'm going to talk about it again because it's relevant. And I'm just going to show you guys here, literally on the price. And I'm using the 2-week candle view because it just serves its purpose a lot better. And I'm going to show you using a tool in TradingView. It's called a date range, and it'll measure how many candles it usually goes before a reversal. So starting from the top of the February 2021 peak, when it hit $64, it ended up dropping down to $30, almost 50%. And it hit 7 bars on the 2-week candle, which is approximately 100 days before it reversed and gave you that bounce back up. So we're going to call that 3 months. Now what I can do is I can drag my tool, which is the date, which is 3 months, and go to the next peak. I'm going to drag it and let's see. So it gave you a lower high in July of $55, and then it dropped over a span of 98 days, and then it reversed again, and it gave you another lower high. So that was another 3-month rally. Now you'll notice from that, and I can do this all the way to this current date. Now, if you go again, we didn't get a big reversal until that 9th bar. That's 4 months. Now we have a 4-month window. So you got, and I think this is a sizable rally. In March of 2022, it hit a low of 13 and it hit a high of 24, almost a 100% rally. So we do count that. And then, of course, I guess you could say this rally was the continuation part of the rally. So I would typically That's your double top. I would take the top there, and we're at 9 bars. And it does give you, I don't know how much of a move that was. It was $9 up to 14, almost a 50% rally. There's your 4 months. As you can see, we come around here, and I'm just dragging this tool here. This is the anomaly, that one of the anomalies. This is the first time it took longer than 4 months. So as I drag it to this top here, this took 5 or even 6 months. This was the anomaly. It took 6 months, but it still stays beyond 3 months of a cool off period. Again, we keep going down this list here. We go back to, I think, to 4 months, and we go to 3 months and 4 months. And as you kind of go here, the earliest and slowest reversal that you've seen was between 100 and 120 days. And in fact, very recently, from the last 100% rally to the last time it popped up, it also gave you a huge like almost a 5-month consolidation period. And take a look, even to this current day in rally. You could have been following these cycles all along, which is what I've been doing, and I've been talking about that. And you could have been like, oh, I can go to the top and I can measure when these cycles and when these are going. And this is what has me thinking forward. Now, of course, yes, I get it. Cycles and patterns are meant to break, but that is every single downtrend since the IPO, since the top at $60, 100% of the downtrends have lasted a minimum of 3 months. And what I'm trying to actually bring up to those of you that are new, or those of you that don't pay attention to this, or those of you that don't know that the pattern and cycles of NIO, that when this rally is over, and whether it goes to $8 or whether it's at the top right now at $6.80, I think it's fair to expect that there would be a longer cool off period. It's a hard statistic to ignore and back down from, and this is what has me cautious. It's not a bad thing cooling off, but it can happen. And people that are saying it's guaranteed to never go below 5, it's guaranteed to go run, you're never going to get it down at these levels. The market loves to humble people that speak in guarantees, because there is no guarantees in the stock market. Okay. And I'm bullish long term, and I can see the bullish path, and I know that's a possibility. But when you start speaking in certainties, and when everybody starts speaking in certainties, that's usually a top signal. And that's like kind of the famous Warren Buffett, where he goes and says, when everybody starts being bullish, you got to be fearful when everyone's greedy, and be greedy when everyone's fearful. And it's totally true. When we were down at these levels at $3, the sentiment was bearish. People were saying, I'm out. I can't handle it. I'm out. And boom, sure enough, it reversed. Now, again, 50-50, I'm not too sure. I see the bull case, and I wanted to present that to you as a bull case. But what you could have, and I've seen a very, very similar setup on Baba, another famous, beloved Chinese name, make a breakout on its parallel channel, and it failed. It failed to follow through, and then it give you a much bigger pullback. Now, what also makes me concerned, and I'm going to talk to you about that today, is what I'm seeing on the velocity. So objectively, and I'm going to delete some of these lines. And again, I got to remember that some of you guys are playing this in the background, and you guys are just listening. We're looking now at the 2-hour velocity on NIO. And we've been able to do this over the last 2 rallies to identify where that reversal came in. The thesis and theory is that if we get 2 trend lines breaking on the 2-hour velocity, we have a confirmation that we're going to see a big reversal. So if I were to rewind to the top of the bull flag that we got at the end of July from 523 or 525 down to 437, and then we put our eyes to the velocity, keep our eyes down to the velocity, and we measure, we had our very first breakout that happened from the velocity perspective right at the end of July, August. And then, and you can see when I take a trend line and I take it from the top of the July bull flag to the peak of that first bounce, we have this is our second breakout. This is the second breakout that happened in August 11th. And shortly after, what did we get? We got the bottom. The bottom came right then and there, and then it reversed. So let's look at this very objectively currently. If we take the current high that we ended up getting, which was on August 22nd, I think it made a higher high, but I saw on August 26th, despite the candle when making a higher high, which was it made 1 penny higher, I think a couple days later. So on Monday, August 25th, it hit a high of $6.82, and then just a couple days later on the Tuesday, it made it a penny higher. But it did so on slower velocity, gave us our bearish divergence. Now again, I believe it's slowly starting its pullback and consolidation phase. And how do we know when we get to that bottom? When can we start getting more confident? When are we going to start jumping in and being like, yep, bottom's in, reversal's in? Well, we know from looking not only at the past bull cycle, and we can actually go back and I can show you this type of thesis working out over and over and over again, that we need 2 trend lines breaking. And as of right now, when I draw a trend line out from the top of the velocity in the 2 hours, we do not have a breakout. So we still need to get our, our very first breakout. That's what I believe. This is my thesis. Let's see if this holds true. You'll find out soon enough. We're going to watch together. We need that first breakout, and we haven't got that. And we're going to need our second breakout. We haven't got that. And when we do, then and only then I'll be like, okay, this pullback is pretty much nearly done. We've reached near the bottom of this, and it's time for the bulls to push this higher. So where are we so far? I know we've got a really, really big drop here that took place Monday, August 25th. It was quite a large drop, and that's when I was concerned, because I felt like, ooh, that kind of changed. From the top, it was an 11% drop. That's a huge change of momentum. We got a double top. Now it's kind of drifting. And oftentimes when you see that drift, it often drifts before it gives you another big move lower. And as you can see, if I were to, and I know some of you guys can't see because you guys are watching and you're just listening. If you were to go back to the bull flag back in July, you'll notice before it gave you its first velocity trendline breakout, it didn't quite hit the bottom, and it just stretched out. It took a couple of weeks before you really finally hit that bottom. And so that is something that I'm watching. And what you could get playing out is you could get another, a bull flag, and it stretches out. As of right now, if I were to predict just from what I see, I do not think NIO is ready to launch next week. I don't. I think there could be a lift. I think there could be a bounce towards 680, 683. I think you can get close to that. But I don't think I've seen, from a velocity perspective, enough confirmation that the sellers are done. I think they just gotten started, actually. And so it's time to be a little bit cautious. There's no guarantees here. On the 1 hour time frame, you can still see it also it's still below the 200-day moving average. Both on the 1 and the 2 hours, we've got lower lows on the velocity. When we get lower lows on the velocity, the sellers are there and they're showing up, and they haven't showed signs of exhaustion. Before the reversal comes up, the sellers are going to be tapping out. They're going to tap out once we start getting higher lows. And that's exactly what happened right before the reversal. We had a higher low finally come in right on August 14th, and the price made a lower low, just barely, but that was the bottom. That was your bottom, and boom, off it went. So we're watching those things. What also has me cautious is, it's up nearly 100%. And we haven't really gotten a significant pullback, actually. The pullback has been pretty tame. And if I were to go to BABA, now I'm going to jump into BABA real quick before I wrap up my analysis here on NIO. But we're going to go in BABA because I want to show you a very similar parallel channel where I was like dead set on BABA going way, way higher, okay? I'm going to show you a time. This was the last rally on BABA in February of 27th. So we just jumped to BABA here for a second. And I want to show you something here. It was around this time, and some of you guys would remember, you can watch some of my videos, that I was already calling for 170 I was getting bullish for 170, 180 because we broke out, and you guys can't quite see it, so I'm going to zoom out to an 8-hour time frame. We have this parallel channel formed here. Lots of scribbles. Maybe it looks like a mess to you. It looks like a mess to me, so I'm going to delete some of these, okay? I'm going to delete my screen. I'm going to delete the scribbles so it looks nice and clean. It was around this time that I started to get very, very, very bullish because I'm like, oh, look, it broke out of the parallel channel. It's guaranteed to go higher. It's got to. It didn't. Nothing's a guarantee in the stock market. And when you actually get that, that's when the market tries to humble you. And what did it end up doing? Boom, back into its lower channel. You didn't get a confirmed breakout. And it's funny because Baba actually had a tremendous day on Friday, which is one thing that we're going to look at. And we've been talking about Baba, how the setup looks fantastic and how it looks great. It's riding above its parallel channel and it's riding towards the top again of the resistance, which is going to come around 140. And I wanted to stop and look at Baba just so that you can compare it back to NIO. So if we go back into NIO here for a second, and you'll take a look and you'll see, now I know it's two different equities and I know it's two different everything. So that's why I painted out like, yeah, sure, maybe that's still a case. But I'm going to tell you right now, before I get like really bullish and before I'm like, yep, the bottom's in, I'm waiting for those two trend lines to break. Now, the way it looks like right now in that 2 hours, we probably get that first trend line break next week. Probably. It's so steep and it's so drop, it won't take much for it to break. And I can imagine there will be a little pop, test a 200-day moving average, and back down again it goes. So I personally expect next week for NIO to come close towards 670, 680 again and retest that top zone once again. But I don't believe it's going to be ready, especially if it bounces from making a lower low. Going to come back down and it's going to consolidate. It's going to drive people crazy. But I will say this, it's been doing a good job holding above its parallel channel. It's keeping it alive. But again, I take you back to Baba. Baba did a really good job as well. Holding above its parallel channel multiple times. It's held it. It held it, and even took the highs out off a higher high. And then it failed. At some point in time, and I wouldn't call it a fail, by the way, it needed to come down and give you a higher low. That Baba, by the way, on January 14th, went from $80 up to $140. And it was unfair and unrealistic to expect, okay, it's only going to pull back to 120 and make another rally. What did it do instead? It dropped from 140 all the way down to 90, giving you, how much of a percent of a pullback was that? A 35% pullback. Some of you might be thinking like, that's excessive, that's crazy, that's probably because of the Hang Seng Index had like that really scary moment. You look and you measure that from a Fibonacci perspective, it was a golden pocket retrace. Like that's a healthy amount for stocks to continue to move higher. They do need to pull back. And so I do present that, and I do let you know that if NIO, by the way, did that, and if NIO wanted to make that similar type of retracement and similar type of pullback, and I take it from the lows here, which was $3.36 from June, up to the highs here at $6.82, our golden pocket retrace is $4.50. That would give you probably a 35% drop. 20, not even that bad of a drop from where it's currently at, 27%. But if it were to do that, it would probably do it from the highs. So if it hits 683, 685, whatever, and dropped, you probably get your 35% healthy pullback if it does do something like that. And anyone that tells you I'm wrong and it's guaranteed up, and anyone that tells you anything otherwise, nobody knows. Nobody knows. The stock market is always humbling everybody. I mean, I'm getting shit wrong all the time, and there ain't nobody who's calling the 100%. And I'm going to get it wrong. I might get this wrong too sometimes. This call out could be totally wrong. Hey, maybe some sort of unexpected catalyst comes out and it launches NIO straight to $8 or even up. I don't know. But all I could do is I could look at the technicals. I can look at the velocity. I can look at the patterns. And these are the things that happen time and time again. And some of you might be asking, well, why does technicals work? Shouldn't it be fundamentals driven? The reason why technicals work is who is the one that's creating that who's making the velocity? Those are your big whales that are buying and moving the stock. Those, and when you measure the velocity, that is the footprints. You can kind of see what they're doing. And they do it over and over and over again, but you don't see it sometimes so easily on the price. And that's why I do like to look at the velocity, because it gives us hints. And what it did on the 2 hours and 4 hours, it showed us that buyers were getting tapped out. So now that the buyers are tapped out and the sellers haven't shown signs of exhaustion, keep an eye out. I would not be shocked to see it come down at some point in time. Maybe not next week, but the following week, you would see it visit $6.05. That would be a line in the sand for NIO before you see it kind of give you a much more larger pullback towards 450. And of course, there's some really big fib. Maybe you only get 550, which is a huge fib level. But that's my analysis. My analysis is I don't think NIO is ready to move next week. I think you'll get a bounce as high as 680, but I don't see it breaking. It might even give you a couple pennies higher. But to me, I don't see that setup is quite there yet. I'm open to being humble. The market's always there to humble me. Let's see if I'm wrong. I know some of you guys don't agree with me, especially with the sentiment. I know some of you guys are like, this is it. This is going to go. But let's just be honest with everybody. There's no such thing as a guarantee in the stock market. Okay? Truthfully, there's not. And so I wanted that to lay that out the best way I could, and the best way you guys can all understand that. I am not ever going to short a stock. I am not bearish in NIO. I wouldn't be dropping these videos once per week if I was bearish these stocks. I am not shorting this stock. I think the future is very bright for NIO, but it would be ignorant and foolish to think the moves that you're going to get on NIO are guaranteed. It never comes easy. It's never guaranteed. And that is one. And the only thing that I'm going on is based off the technical setup. Yes, there's the fundamental element aspect of it as well. Now, if you're new here, we also don't look at NIO. We do look at BABA, which we already did do. So I'm just going to quickly look at BABA and take a look to see where we are at. Notice how it's this massive move. There's going to be continuation, guaranteed. And if you want, you're going to want to see that bigger move. You're going to want to see above 140 on the 24-hour time frame. Notice how it just consolidated and it's getting ready to give it its next parabolic move. And it made a higher low. This is its first higher low on the 200-day moving average. Now, if it was able to give you, by the way, BABA, was it a 100% move? How big of a move was that on its last rally? Almost an 85% rally back in, what was it? It was January 2000, like earlier this year into March. And now our 200-day moving average is giving you a higher high. Sorry, pardon me, a higher low. I think there's a good chance you can see like some nice parabolic move happening on BABA. And if Friday wasn't a hint of what's to come, then I don't know what else hint you're looking for. That is massive, huge. You'd love to see it. And I do believe BABA is just getting started. And that is a good thing. I think that's going to actually drive and sustain and keep the Hang Seng Index higher. It's going to keep this rally going for NIO, but it's not a guaranteed move. I want to remind y'all, during the January BABA rally, when it went up 85%, NIO stayed flat. They were able to keep it flat completely. And if you don't believe me, look at the charts. I was completely baffled when that happened. Now we go into the Hang Seng, and now that's my light touch. Oh, and I do want to go Baidu. I know some of you guys are in Baidu, and Baidu is probably going to get its time to shine. Baidu, by the way, Baidu just made a massive breakout here. If you take a peek here, it's broken out from last year, October 2024. It's nearly a 1-year breakout. That is gigantic. Baidu's going to get its time to shine. It's going to get its time to shine, and it made a higher high relative to its last higher high, and just like all other Chinese names, they're all going to get their time to shine. So it looks very promising that it's broken out, but again, after every breakout, there's going to be a healthy pullback as well at some point in time. I'm not doing a deep dive on Baidu. This video is already getting way too long, so we're not going to go too deep. I'm just giving you a quick look. I like what I see so far on Baidu. Now we're going to go quickly into our Hang Seng Index. We've been kind of charting this all along. And you'll notice this thing has just been dancing. It's been dancing. It's been dancing, kind of what Baba's been doing. I've been calling it time and time again, like all of this dancing, it's got to retest the top of this parallel channel, which is, it keeps getting higher actually with time, which is going to be around 26,000, just shy of 27,000. And I believe there will be a really big level of resistance there. And this is a parallel channel, for those of you who haven't seen this, that dates back to January of 2024. This is like an uptrending parallel channel. And it's just been consolidating. And I think at some point in time, there's going to be a magnet there, and it's going to try and test to see if we can get that breakout. Nothing's a guarantee, but because we haven't touched it and we haven't reached it, I do believe there's a lot more room to go higher. And because it continues to bounce off this middle channel, I remain bullish on the Hang Seng Index actually. So that's a nice thing. I don't see anything. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it where it did this crazy consolidation. This is the most tightest I've ever seen the velocity. And I look back at, since watching the Hang Seng Index, each time it's been more explosive up, explosive down, explosive up, explosive down, explosive up, explosive down. This is probably the first time it's like grinding. It's just grinding higher. So it's definitely changed actually. And I think it looks great. And did it take out the previous high? Yeah. It's basically retested that previous high. Like, that is gorgeous. You can take the measured move, by the way, as to, this is like basically your, I mean, I don't know where you want to measure that. You can say this was your cup. That was your cup. That was your handle. And it's getting ready to move. When you get a cup and handle, you basically take this move right here, which is the price range. You go, okay, how high was it? I'm just going to go from here to be conservative. And you take it to the top. And you can be like, all right, measured move is going to be 30,000. That's how you measure a cup and handle. You take how big that move was, and it's going to basically double that move. And so I do think the future is bright for Chinese equities. I do think it's going to move higher. I think it looks great. I think it's very interesting how it's just grinding higher. Nothing that I see is bearish here, as it's holding that mid channel. And I do expect it to push higher and grind higher. The US dollar, which is the Dixie, man, it's just also consolidating. And that is seriously shocking me, how long it's been actually consolidating in this zone here. But at some point in time, you're going to get a much more bigger and significant move. That US dollar will at some point make a big move up. And it'll move up. I mean, the big move up is really like to 102, which would be a 5-point move on the US dollar, which is significant. And I think there's a potential shot of 107. I think there's a potential. But it's not out of the picture. It's so choppy. It's not out of the picture. I can see that the 200-day moving average made a lower low. It needed to consolidate. It might break down, and you get a breakdown on the US dollar. And I'm trying to draw the 200-day moving average, showing how it comes down, comes back up. So you might get one last flush. It might even take the lows out at, what is it, 96. So you get one more push down while everything pushes higher, and then that launch. It's an important signal to kind of keep an eye out. And that pretty much wraps up my video. You might be able to hear a dog squeaky noise. Actually, that's my son hitting my dog's toy. So anyways, it's perfect timing here, guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I love that. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. Drop a comment. If I missed something, let me know. I don't think it's as clear as people are making it out to be. I do see the bull case. What I do know for next week is I don't think it's ready. I'm going to call you up right now just by looking at the velocity. I don't think it's ready. I think you'll get a bounce. I think it'll come close to 680, 683, 684. And I think it will immediately give you like that choppy price action. It'll just come right back down again. That's what I'm going with. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to wrap this up. It's 11:50. This video is way too long and it's the weekend. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. And cheers.